Well, hey there, Bill.
Hi.
Come and join
How are
us.
you?
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. Well, welcome to our show today. I'm Shirley and this is Sandy.
Hi, how are you?
We are going to be talking about marriage today, finding healing, restoration, and forgiveness. And we're so excited that we have a full room today. Yes, we are packed to the max here because our room's not that big. All right. So this is my husband Bill, and this is Katie, and this is Bob, and this is Sandy and Shirley.
Yes.
Where's our little heart? We gotta share our little heart.
little heart.
Oh, sharing our heart with you.
Yes.
We gotta do that every time, right, Sandy?
Yes, we can't
Yes.
forget.
So we're excited to have you here today. We're going to be going through lots of different ideas and thoughts to encourage you with your marriage. And I'm very excited that you get to join us today. And I want Sandy to share a little bit about some things.
All right, well, in a few weeks, I'm going to share about being single and what that feels like when you've been married for a long time, you go through a divorce, and the challenges that come with it, but how God can actually help your heart mend and to move forward and be very productive.
Yes, he does redeem the time. And he calls you to something really special so we get to help other people, which is so precious to us. I just want to let you know that being single or being single again or being married is all challenging. I mean, every season of life is challenging,
Yes.
right? You guys would all agree, right?
Yes.
So we're just walking with God and trying to work through all the challenges and come out the end victorious in Him. So that's our goal. So we're excited. God can rescue, repair, restore any relationship as long as we make sure that we're surrendering to Him and we're going into His Word, learning His
Yes.
truth. That is key. And we have a special verse for you that
Yes.
Sandy's going to read.
It's out of Hebrews 4:16. Let us therefore come boldly to the throne
Yes.
of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need.
Thank you. Powerful. Very powerful.
It is.
Thank you.
It is.
Okay, we want to do a couple of announcements before I introduce everybody. We have, this is already the 22nd and Thanksgiving is Thursday. So my goodness, it's going fast, isn't it? So I just want to encourage you to do some things for Thanksgiving, this Thanksgiving month. This has been such a beautiful month to come before the Lord and just thank Him for all His blessings, because in the trying times there are still many, many blessings. I think everybody would agree with that, right?
Yes.
So we want to always make sure we're doing that. So I think about the people that are in isolation right now, and I just want you to, I don't know where you stand about social distancing or if you can maybe have an outside event, but the people that are in isolation that are lonely, I just want to ask that you would reach out to them. And if they can't come over or you can't spend time with them, please send a card or make a call or take a meal. The holiday months become very stressful, even for people that don't have depression. But I know for me, even with the depression I've had in the past, it's a very lonely time, even though all this celebrations happening, because you've had, things happen in the past that trigger things. So we want to be very conscious of the people that need extra help, right? Because you do the care ministry and you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's very, very necessary for us to reach out and be the hands and feet of Jesus. So I just want to encourage you to do that. And also we're doing our major scene on, I believe it's the 6th or whatever, this first Sunday, I think, of December.
Oh, okay.
So if you did not get the instructions on what to collect to make a manger, you need to go possibly on YouTube and type in sisters and then and click on the first episode, and I tell you everything you need to make the manger. So we're going to do that all together, and so I want to make sure you have all your stuff, okay? So, I think that's about the only ones we had, right, for announcements?
I think so.
Okay, so I want you to share some Thanksgiving verses, because that's Thanksgiving!
Oh, yes, of course, of course. Whoops, I'm stuck here.
Okay,
Sorry.
tape, tape, tape.
All right.
So we gotta hold this one up.
No, this one first.
With this one first,
Okay.
okay.
This says, make a joyful shout to the Lord, all the lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture.
Amen.
Enter his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Be thankful to him and bless his name, for the Lord is good. His mercy is everlasting and his truth endures to all generations. And that's Psalms 100. And I have to add a little bit to that.
Yes.
When you were talking about reaching out and ministering to people that are in great need, sometimes, like you said, the holidays just on its own is really a difficult time for various reasons.
Right.
And I think especially this year, we need to step up and step out of the boat and really, really reach out to people
Yes.
and individuals,
Yeah.
because the suicide rate is up, depression is up, because they're isolated.
Right.
And God never created us to be isolated and to be separated from each other. So, however that can be, like she said, social distance, even if you put a table out in your front yard and, and you wear masks
wave at
or
each
whatever, you can take them off and eat, and invite neighbors maybe you haven't reached out to before,
Yes.
or find out from someone who is going through a difficult time from a friend, and do that. Because when you read this scripture, it says, enter his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. The whole thing about singing unto the Lord and praising God breaks those things.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can be together and maybe have this time of praying, time of encouraging each other, that's like singing praises to God, because that's what he wants us to do. He wants us to create an atmosphere
Right.
that would really help us all, and it helps us in turn.
Right.
So,
Awesome.
all right.
Thank you. And I wanted you to get a chance to share about your family too. You were
Oh, yes.
mentioning you
Yeah.
did not get to. We did not do that on our first
I know,
episode. We
I
had
know.
so much to think about.
Yeah, just a little blurb. I introduced all my family. Well, I talked about my son, but I didn't talk about his family. And so I just wanted to say that my oldest son, Robert, is married to my daughter-in-law, Kim, and she's a nurse, and they have 3 of my 7 grandchildren. Ethan, my grandson, and my granddaughters, Caitlin and Layla, and they're all homeschooling too, and they have they live out in San Marcos, really close to me. So I just wanted to mention them real quick, because I neglected to mention all of them, even though I did mention I had a son and daughter. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
Yeah, Sandy, actually, we both have our notes written down, but
Yes.
still, it is a process trying to get all of it out and
It's learning.
together. So we're getting better, and we're gonna be able to do this pretty well, and someday. We're counting on it, right? All right, well, is that all that you?
I think so.
Okay, I'm gonna introduce my husband, and he's gonna tell a little about us.
Okay.
We've been married 41 years, so we just
Wow.
celebrated 41 years together, and this is my husband, Bill.
Yeah,
Mm. And he wants to share some fun things about us, I think.
I do. Lots of things.
He did so I do.
Not too fun, though.
No, you asked me to share about when we first met. And Shirley was junior high milk girl, ice cream girl, selling little sandwiches and milk cartons. When I first saw her, I thought, wow, she's really cute.
Oh.
So I think we were both age 13. And I didn't see her. I ended up going to a different high school than her after our freshman year, and I was too shy to introduce myself back then. But when I was in high school, one of my good friends was Shirley's boyfriend, and I didn't realize it, and they were breaking up. And he mentioned to me, he told me about it, and I saw her picture, and I go, oh, I remember her, I thought she was really cute. And he said, well, you two, you'd probably get along pretty well together, let me introduce you, which I thought was very nice of him. Kind of changes his mind a little bit later, but we worked through it. So, met her in, I believe it was our Halloween party of our senior year, and then we hit it off very nicely. I was still pretty shy, so another year went by. I saw her at Halloween party our freshman year of college. Still pretty shy, but coming out a little bit there, and out of my shyness, and went ahead and asked her out, and that December. And I remember I went into the gym to ask her out, and she was practicing her gymnastics vault. And she had just gone over the vault as I walked in the door, came down and landed on her bottom.
Oh dear.
So at that point I said, yeah, I need to ask her out. So I asked her out, and then I decided to fast track it after that. So we dated for about 4 years. And then we got married, and we've been married for 41 since then.
Wow, that's an amazing story.
Yes.
So,
I love it.
It's been fun, and marriage is definitely a commitment, and you have to be very intentional. I think for myself and Bill, we grew up with marriages that were not what we wanted. We really wanted to have one that honored the Lord. And so for us, we wanted to find out what that meant. We got married at 22, and we decided to be intentional about our marriage. We were going to go to as many Christian events as we could about marriage, retreats. I can't remember all the names of them, and we did Bible studies, and it's been beautiful and in that way to learn and to get the tools we needed to keep our marriage strong, because we don't want just a good marriage, we want a great marriage and one that honors the Lord. So we have really worked on that, and we wanted to change the legacy of our family, because we do have alcoholism on both sides, so we wanted to help change that for the future. Wanted our kids to see a marriage that was working, and hopefully move that forward for them. So we're very glad we did that. I want to share a little bit later after we introduce Bob and Katie, but I'm excited that you get to hear this today. Okay?
Well, I have the privilege to introduce Bob and Katie Adauto, and they've been married 30 years.
Yes.
Okay. And they have 2 grown children. Bob recently retired from law enforcement. Thank you very much
for your service.
Thank
Thank
you. Greatly appreciate you.
Yes.
And Katie is the director of the care at Crosspoint Church in Temecula. And their desire is to help couples who are struggling to restore and strengthen their marriages.
Yes.
That is a great task, and I think it's so much needed.
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. So I will let you start the first question, Bill, and then
I get to ask Bob and Katie some
you
questions.
do. We are going to all just ask, and then we're going to have you share.
Well, let's start with a very basic one for you two, Bob and Katie. How did you two meet?
Well,
Go for it.
we met in high school. We had pretty much the same circle of friends that would meet every now and then, and I always thought Katie was my uptown girl, as it were, in Billy Joel's song, and I was not Billy Joel, but I was his status, So, but I always thought she looked amazing, and she had this great looking boyfriend, so there's zero chance. However, your story sounded familiar, where, they broke up, fortunately for me, unfortunately for her heart, but I remember being reintroduced to Katie we were juniors, we went to San Diego High together, and she was sitting in the library, and she just gave me a look that was nothing was gonna stop me. I was a freight train going right. I just wanted to be with her and
Oh,
holding hands. So after
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been together ever since. Junior
Very
high.
sweet.
Wonderful.
Did I miss anything?
Young love.
No.
Good job.
Good job.
Very
I
good.
want to see you give Bob that look.
I don't know what he's referring
Yeah,
to.
it's
No idea.
probably
no
in my
idea.
imagination.
No, I think it was
But
the
I'm
eyes.
sure-
The eyes are the window to
I
the
don't
soul.
know.
Right.
No
Yeah.
So
idea.
you looked at him and he just like,
Yeah,
she's the one.
Yeah. I went in to find a book and I walked out with a girlfriend.
Oh,
Hey,
I like it.
that's wonderful.
I like it.
I don't think you went to the library for a walk. I really don't think so. Uh-oh.
Oh my goodness. Well, I heard a little bit about your background, and I know we met in Dynamic Marriage. I was trying to find my notebook, but I did find the His Needs, Her Needs book. I displayed out in front there. You didn't talk about Honey Bear's Squirrely Shirley.
Oh,
Did you forget that?
I'm sorry. Did you want me to say that?
Yeah. That's
Shirley has a couple of stuffed animals up front there.
I just
One of them is a little teddy bear, the other one's a little stuffed squirrel.
Oh, they're so cute.
When we were in a group with our church as we were younger, before we were married, we had bought those for each other, and we were given a couple of nicknames on our touring bus when we went around. I became Huggy Bear, and Shirley was Squirrely Shirley, because she was pretty squirrely.
I was pretty squirrely back then.
So those little stuffed animals are dear to us, and they've been around for a good, probably 45 years.
Wow.
They're old,
They're collector's items now.
right? I think so. We could make a lot of money on it.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
You never know. But we won't give those up. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I just saw them in the, yes.
I tried to skip that, but that's
So, Dynamic Marriage, I mean, that's how we met you guys. I mean, really got to know you. And that was probably maybe the most intense class we've taken. But I loved it. And we hadn't taken a class for a while on marriage. But we had a chance to get to the nitty-gritty of things, and I think that was very helpful. Because sometimes you don't know why you're feeling what you're feeling until you start working it out and asking questions to each other and stuff. And I thought it was a very powerful class. I really appreciated you guys standing up and doing that, because I think it really sets a different level, of I don't know, intentionality, I guess, of trying to make your marriage better, knowing that you can
Yes.
make your marriage better, but you just need some tools.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think that was so excellent to have that extra bit of tools for our toolbox. And my quote is always, "I'll dig the well before you're thirsty." So we were always encouraged as couples back in the day to don't wait until you're having problems. Please go and train and build that strong foundation and get into God's word and learn everything you need to know, because the troubles are going to come, right? So when you have done that homework and you've really spent the time developing and making your marriage very solid, then when the struggles come, you have those tools that you can use. And I really appreciate you guys doing that for us. Yeah.
ditto.
Okay. You have a question?
Well, I have a little bit different of a question. As Shirley had announced that, I was married for 27 years. And with my husband for 31 years, we had dated, and married at 19, high school sweetheart, the whole thing. And then in my mid-40s, I found myself divorced and single. So my question to you is, do you deal with a lot of divorces? I know you deal with marriage and restoring it and doing that, but do you deal with a lot of couples that are either divorced or widowed or widowers?
The particular ministries we have are open to people regardless of their marriage status, and we'll get into what those
Yeah.
ministries are a little bit later. So
Okay.
definitely, we've got, in my particular group, we've got women who had to choose divorce from a myriad of reasons, and so yeah, being able to meet with them on a weekly basis in a group of women that we're just searching for some healing, some
Yes.
understanding.
Yes.
Yeah, so it isn't necessarily, we're not meeting because they were divorced or widowed,
Right.
but some of the baggage that they still have needs to be worked out,
Right.
so,
Yes.
yeah.
So
Wonderful.
important.
And the same thing for the men, right? It doesn't matter, you've got a lot of single men actually, which is
Right.
great.
Yes.
They're looking to try to improve themselves before marriage.
Right.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and that's, they definitely have the most chance of success. I mean, that's extremely wise at such a young age to want to get, to recognize there's an issue and then, you know, to want to do something about it before it becomes a bigger problem.
Right.
Very
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
Very good. Do you have a question?
I do.
All right.
I was wondering if the two of you, and you can split it up however you'd like, but if you could share with us maybe 3 keys that you think there might be to having or developing a successful marriage.
Take that.
Yeah, well, you know, from our own past experience, of dealing with all kinds of different issues, one thing is very foremost, and that should have been communication. I mean, everyone talks about it, but it would have saved us a lot of headaches if I would have just opened my mouth. And guys, I feel, are not good with sharing in general, in sharing their feelings. We don't know how to put that into words. We don't want to appear that we're weak. We don't want to appear that we don't have control, whatever that may mean. And so we just shut down, and that's why, you know, when I think it's pretty typical when the husband comes home from work, wife's happy to see, hey, how was work? Oh, fine, you know. It's the same response you're gonna get from most teenagers, you know, because they don't want to.
Right?
Of course, it was stressful. There's all kinds of things happening at work, but most of the time, guys will just stay fine and you know, grab some TV time. But I feel like communication is definitely absolutely one of the top keys there.
Yeah, and I think that we were talking about just having that foundation, that spiritual foundation, right? So having God be a part of your marriage from the get-go is so important because, as Shirley said, we're going to go through a lot of really hard times, and it's no guarantee, you know, because you have to have 2 willing participants.
Exactly.
That when it gets hard, you're going to fight that really hard fight in some cases, but you're willing to do that. And I think sometimes about whether it's our marriage or marriages that we, you know, walk alongside, and some of these marriages would not have lasted without God as being a part of it. Yeah, so that's, you know what I mean, you've got that ultimate father up there that's going to guide you and that you can cry out to,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
in good days and bad. So
Right.
who you wanted 3?
3.
If you
Okay.
have a third one,
So
fine.
third one, I'd have to say, you know, Shirley mentioned it, being intentional about marriage, and for some silly reason, again, in general, guys will figure we're married and now I'm done chasing after my wife, so to speak. I'm done pursuing, and that's a fallacy. We should act as if they're still our girlfriends. You know,
Right.
we should continue to date. We should continue to
That's good.
treat them like the awesome queens that they are. You know what I'm saying? Like we should always.
Did you
continue.
hear that? You're all quiet.
Yeah, absolutely. Continue to pursue your wife as if this is your first year meeting.
Yes, I agree. That is precious.
Yeah.
Thank
you for sharing those.
I like that. Okay, so your background, I kind of want to hear a little bit about your background and the calling that God has placed on your life. How did you come to that
Okay.
calling?
That's your story to share.
That's my story.
That's your story to
Ah,
share.
we gotta share with the group out there.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Here we are. Yes. So there's an issue that a lot of men have, I'm not saying all, and I'm not saying in general, but the numbers are larger than we think. As far as dealing with, we call it sexual brokenness, where guys go outside of the marriage to try to heal the pain. 68% of men in church struggle with porn issues.
60?
68.
68%?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know that.
I
Yeah.
hear that.
68% of guys in church, 50% of pastors, 25% of women struggle with this issue. So I have been struggling for years. I finally got outside myself and started talking to other pastors, trying to figure out how to work this out, how to get healed from this. And it was years of a lot of brick walls. So finally, I discovered some awesome healing through therapy, and then I was introduced to Dr. Ted Roberts, who wrote a book called Pure Desire. This gentleman also started a group, a men's group called 7 Pillars of Freedom, which is a workbook that you go through and you meet every week in class. I finished that, and then I definitely wanted to start my own, because something in that, while going through that, I discovered a lot of healing and a lot of tools to use to break out of this, and I just know, and I knew like this was amazing and I want to share it, so I started our own group here at Crosspoint Church, and I've been doing that for almost 5 years now,
Thank you.
versus
Yes.
6 years, I don't remember. Oh, around 5 years.
That's not offered. I mean,
Right.
honestly, it's a type of
Yes,
thing.
Yeah, it's like
It
taboo,
is.
people don't wanna
Right.
talk about it, but it's a real
It's
issue
there.
that needs healing.
Right, it's part of the healing process
Yeah.
for so many people, so we're glad that some of the churches are offering help.
right,
And it is hard to stand up and go, I need help.
right.
That is the first initial thing that has to happen,
Right.
is you have to recognize, yes, I do need some help.
Right.
Cause I want my marriage to make it,
Right, yeah.
right?
Yeah, because I'm tired of feeling like this. I'm tired of hurting my marriage. I'm tired of
Right.
hurting my wife.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a lot of guys that feel the same, and they come through the door and they're broken and they're ready to get some healing, and those are the most successful guys that go through our program.
That's wonderful.
Do you know if there's other churches doing this, or is it just,
Yeah, I'm sure.
Is it a
There
lot
are a
of
few.
churches, or
I wouldn't say a lot, but there are other. I'd say a handful
In our area.
in our area.
But
Yeah.
but it's it's
It's worldwide. It's definitely
it
worldwide.
is worldwide?
Yes.
Oh, awesome,
Yeah.
okay.
Because I lead a church group on Monday, and on Tuesday I lead an online group. It's the same workbook, except these guys are from all over the country and all over the world.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I
You
have.
can reach them that way.
Right, yeah, they sign up for the group, and one guy in Switzerland gets up at 2 a.m. so that he
Wow.
can be in our group.
Praise God.
So,
That is wonderful.
So I never, when my guys on Monday say, well, I have something, like I always think of this guy getting up at 2 a.m. for this, and I'm like, well, it's not really an
It's
excuse.
like, where's
But,
your priority?
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly, yes.
Well, we'll have to, add that to our graphics so
Okay.
that they can have a, yes,
Right.
definitely do that. Oh my goodness, that's exciting.
Now the lady side,
Yeah, so
Yes.
Pure Desire realized that, especially if this is a marriage, not just a single gentleman, that there is a need then for the women. So, as a woman, you discover, you find out that your husband has an issue. You're not even quite sure, is it an addiction? Is it just a habit? And a lot of women will try to battle this on their own. It can be very embarrassing. They don't want to tell their mom. They don't want to tell their girlfriends.
Right.
They feel that there's something wrong with them, right? Why is my husband not
Yes.
attracted to me? It's because of me.
Yeah.
And so Pure Desire, their overall ministry, had come up with a separate program called Betrayal and Beyond that is a women's group.
Oh.
And it's the same way. You can find a church local to you. You can do one online. Same format. It's a 9-month program. We're not going to get through it quick. Of a workbook and a journal, and we meet each week just to really support each other. We learn more about the addiction, the struggle that our husbands are in, and hoping that it will create some empathy. Again, you know, we have legitimate reasons to be hurt and angry. So the first few months, we're kind of learning and educating ourselves on what is going on and the real struggle and battle that our husbands have and how we can come alongside them. And then the book kind of takes a shift, and it has almost kind of a little counseling feel to it, because we're really going, while our men are hopefully in the program themselves working things out, we're gonna learn about ourselves a little bit more, you know, because we probably have some baggage and some things for our past that we
Right.
can be working on as
Right.
well. So it's really neat when you have a couple that will get in the car and drive to a location and do these meetings together. There is some healing and some you know, some bonding that goes there. But again, like he said, he has single men. I have women that have either already divorced their husband because of this issue, or are in the midst of divorce. And the Trail and Beyond is interesting because although it mainly deals with the issue of having somebody in your life that has this issue, I've had a lady who was sexually abused by her father. This was years before. She had gone through counseling, but she really wanted to learn a little bit more about what her father, who had passed away by then, was dealing with. You know, it was just another
Try to
step in the
understand it.
healing
Right.
process for her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
open for all women, you know, as long as it fits a little bit of the parameters and they're gonna get something out of it. Yeah.
So
that's
these
what
are I mean, they take the men in a separate class
Right.
and the women in
Correct,
separate?
yes.
It's not couples
No.
stuff?
No,
No.
no,
'Cause that
yeah.
would be a little bit awkward, right?
Well, it would be very difficult because
Right.
the men are doing a lot, I won't speak for him, a lot of soul searching. In most
Right.
cases, there's trauma as a child.
Right.
Yeah.
And what we as women are dealing with something completely different,
Right.
right? Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
That's very true. Wow. That is so powerful. I love that. I thank you for standing up and doing that, because that in itself is such a challenge, I would
Yeah.
think. Because
Yeah,
it's very,
absolutely.
it's a lot of pain. It's a lot
Oh,
of pain
yes.
to
Yeah.
hear.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, desperate pain, sometimes probably.
Yeah.
So to stand up and take that calling is quite, you know, that's
Right.
amazing to me.
Thank you.
Wow. You have another question?
Well, I do. You say you have some women that have come out of that, and they've come out and they're either divorcing or divorced for that reason. And I think one of the things that I faced was how the church looked at you as a divorced woman. And I don't know if you've ever encountered that with any of the women. How would you respond to them? Because, you know, the Lord kept telling me, you know, you're my queen. You know, he kept telling me I was his girl, and he wanted me to be alone with him when I came out from that environment and was you know, going through the process of divorce, that he wanted to restore me as a woman, as a person. And I continued to pray for my spouse then and ex-husband, but do you ever find that women that are in that situation and divorcing, if they feel the rejection actually from the church too, where they're kind of marked, so to speak?
You know what, I will say it's been a blessing that I haven't personally
Wonderful.
had a woman do that. You know, you've got organizations like Divorce Care, right? That's a Christian organization, that's both for men and women.
Okay.
So you would hope, but we know it's not always the case, that the Christian church would come alongside us.
Not all churches have
Right.
what you guys are doing.
Well, yeah, and we
You
don't
know?
do divorce care at our church, but yeah,
Right.
but
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Helping to restore
right. And
women
it's
that become single, or men
yeah,
that become
it's,
single.
it is such a hard
it's-
decision,
yeah.
right? That you've walked through to make that
Yeah.
decision, not easily, not lightly. And so, yeah, your desire obviously would be that the church would come alongside you. You know what I mean? And love on you in a time when you really need it.
Right.
And so,
Especially when it's not something where you chose to want to walk away from the marriage.
Right.
The other one did.
Right.
And so you talk about the rejection,
right,
and so
yeah.
that, you know, you really need that healing. And it sounds like you
Absolutely.
give that to women
Yeah.
that are
Yeah, if their particular circumstance
that.
was that there was some sexual addiction that they're trying to understand, and at the same time them working on themselves.
Right.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know a lot about divorce care. I'm sure there's people out there that have probably attended it. We actually have a couple at church that married, they met there, you know, so you just never,
Wow, that's
you
amazing.
never know, right?
Yeah,
And they
that's
weren't
true.
looking for it, obviously,
Right,
right? They
right.
really just were looking for some Christian healing. But yeah, I think it's a good reminders for us
Yeah.
that you never know what situation we could be in. So you're not gonna wanna judge somebody, you're gonna wanna
Right,
walk
you're not
with
walking
them.
in their shoes,
Yeah,
that's for
true.
sure.
That's true.
Right,
Absolutely.
you have to be so careful about that, huh? Absolutely. Well, thank you. Did you have a question?
Well, my question was kind of along those lines, and you've kind of answered it, because I was curious about ministries and how you got involved, or what your calling was to those, so you answered that.
Okay.
Let me go back to your marriage then, and I'll ask, are there any lessons that you've learned through the years of marriage that you've had? One or two lessons you might want to share beyond the things that you mentioned were important, like communication?
The many lessons, right? The many lessons. I think it, and this might be taboo, you ladies might not like this. You're not gonna like this.
Uh-oh.
We talk about every time we do a new session, this comes up. What happens, and this isn't, God has given us some amazing gifts that He doesn't necessarily give men, okay? So we have usually, and again, I'm not, you know, we can multitask really
Yes,
well.
ma'am. Right.
We have, you know, we can put things in order. We're usually the family scheduler, right? We've got it all. But what seems to happen somewhere along the way, and especially if you have children along the way, is that your husband becomes, without you knowing it, one of your children. So you end up mothering your husband. And how do you think that's gonna work?
Yeah.
Right? And it happens so we don't even realize it, right? Like we have a certain plan. We need to have these rules in place in our household for our children, and before you know it, it's the same rules for the men in our lives. So just asking that maybe you really search yourself really deep and say, hey, does any of that resonate with me? Is there something where, yeah, maybe I'm doing a little bit of that, you know? Yeah, we just, in our class last night, you know, one of the ladies came in and said that she really felt that over the weekend, God had really pressed on her the need to once again go back and be her husband's friend. The friend first, you know, because she was.
Yes.
And she actually admitted she had a list of grievances that she had typed on her phone. Things that she was frustrated,
Yes,
angry about,
yes.
were hoping would change
You're
about
agreeing
her
way too
husband.
much with that.
So just a good reminder for the women out there. I know it's hard. We're different personalities. We see
Right.
the world differently,
Yes.
but it doesn't mean that our way is the 100% right way. It might be more efficient. It really might be, but we've got to give them the space. We
Right.
want them to continue to see us as their girlfriends and
Right.
not their mothers.
Exactly.
Really, yeah. So that would be mine.
Very good. That's a great
It
one. I
happens.
like
It just happens. It
Yeah.
really does.
Huh.
It's very natural.
It's
Because you're a mother.
right.
Right.
It just
And
happens.
you don't realize you've already been married to a kid for, for a certain amount of time.
Another topic. That's a whole nother topic.
So it just happens.
Well, you hear it all the time, right? My husband is my third child or
Right.
fourth child. It's part of almost in a unhealthy way society now, right? We see a lot of, you were telling me before, right, about what was it, Disney? We were watching, when my daughter was a young teen, we would watch a lot of shows on the Disney Channel.
Yes.
And so many
Oh,
of
yeah.
them would show the father as like a goofball.
Yeah, and you-
Right.
You know what I mean?
Kind of demeanor the man.
Yeah, so
And
it's
his
just
role.
part of nature now that society
Oh, wow.
is telling us that men can't handle it, and so
Right.
we need to take charge. And yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know how I'm going to top that, but I just thinking about it. I know one hard lesson I learned, and it took a very long time for me, is that I had to realize that my wife was not going to be the source of my happiness. I can't depend on her to make me feel better. You see what I'm saying? Because that's in a way idolizing, I need to go to God. I need to go humble myself before God, and get whatever, because I'm pretty sure on a daily basis we're gonna need something from Him. We're gonna need some
Yes.
peace. Lord, help me do whatever, But for some reason, I thought, well, she's my wife, and when I'm feeling down, she can make me happy. I mean, it's just kind of absurd. I mean, not to say that she wouldn't try, but she's human, and I can't just put all that burden on her. Like, well, entertain me or make me happy or make me feel better. That's just silly. So that took a very long time, but it was so freeing once I discovered that that's not her place, that's God's place, where I need to go to Him for rest, or I'm thinking of Psalm 23, concerning where
yes.
He's the one that leads me to all these places, and
Yes.
she's here as my helper,
Right.
as we're doing life together. But I just can't just focus on her and expect all these good things to come from her. So.
Yeah, it is pretty daunting to think that you're responsible,
Right.
not only for the kids, but the happiness of your
Right.
husband,
Yeah.
or wife, or vice versa.
Yeah.
I know it is, I agree.
Mhm.
That's very good. And you guys have gotten that at an earlier age. I mean, some people don't learn these lessons,
Yeah.
maybe ever. I
Well,
don't
they've been
know.
married 41 years.
Oh, you're
Well,
so
you got time.
No, my goodness.
too cute. Okay, I don't know.
Those were good girls'
I
wisdom.
love them, thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so God wakes me up in the middle of the night, so what popped in my head at 3 a.m? Well, it's funny, isn't it? And then I get up and write it down.
No good.
Yep, there you go. Okay, so it takes both husband and wife to surrender and submit to God and to the training He wants to have for them. Because nobody wants to air their dirty laundry, is that correct? I mean, we really don't want to share. It is a tough decision to go to a marriage class or retreat, because you're gonna, first you're gonna have to bring a box of Kleenex, because Shirley's gonna be crying the whole time, because it all comes out. But, and it's just hard, it is really hard. So any words of encouragement, or, I think even, probably, I would say men struggle with this even more, because they're not as relational as women. Women, we kind of have our friends, and
Yeah.
we have our women's Bible study, so we can, no, we don't say, specific things or anything, but we do ask for prayer often, for all of the things we deal with in life. But do you have some words of encouragement on, to help somebody that just can't seem to move that step of faith into that healing that they so need? Because I feel, my heart feels like, there's so many marriages that could be over the top amazing if both of them just said, let's take that step of faith and just release it to God and do something practical like these classes to get help and have those tools that we need. So any encouragement you can think of that might help?
Well, oftentimes, as you say, you have a men and women on different pages, right?
Yes.
So I think, whether it's the man or the woman that, is throwing up the flag and going, hey, we need to go do whatever it is, obviously just hopefully being able to come together, maybe in prayer together, and being able to ask God, for some wisdom. We know we're struggling in XYZ in our marriage. We humbly come to you and ask that you would open the door. What is it that you would like us to do? And I think being on the same page, and I will admit that, doing a few marriage retreats, you oftentimes, I wouldn't say often, it's a lot of the time, probably at least 50% of the time, it's the woman that's signing up
You're
for
right.
both of
Yeah.
you, right?
Right.
And again, with the best interest, and the husband isn't probably saying no, but is the husband really going in with a willing heart, or is it just, I'm doing this to make my wife happy? So there really needs to be some buy-in from both, some actual conversations, and again, life is hectic and it's busy. We have a lot to do, and we don't put marriage up there. Someone said the analogy years ago, which was you have to look at look at your marriage in some ways like a car. Like you were saying, you don't want to wait till something's broken. So things like marriage retreats, things like going to counseling, think of it as an oil change. It's something you're doing to keep that
There you
marriage
go.
running
I love
and
that.
running
Right, there you go.
smoothly
Yes.
before. So there should be absolutely no shame. And so
Right.
if there's shame in any way about the fact that, well, it should just be on autopilot, on cruise control, right? We
Right.
shouldn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
That's silly. That's absolutely silly. So being able to recognize, and we have the enemy there that's
Oh,
going to
yes.
want to wreak havoc with it, right?
Yes,
So there's so many reasons why it's so important, and we get it. So, our particular ministries are probably even a notch above that, because you've got just the desire to want to maintain the marriage, want to, learn new things about each other, grow that marriage. You've got that, which is usually would then be some type of marriage Bible study, marriage retreat. That's great. But then when there's an actual known issue and having to choose
Yes.
either marriage counseling or a marriage ministry class, that, this is different. It's going to cost time, it's going to cost money, and it's going to be emotionally draining.
Yes.
But in the end, what you're going to have if you've got two willing participants on the other end is amazing. You're
Yes.
going to be, maybe even better than you were the day you married, because you know so much more about each other. You've gone through so many trials
Yes.
with each other now. But yeah, you have to be able to get out of your own head. You have to realize that there's ministries and there's people out there that want to come alongside you and want to help you have the best marriage possible.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
You could dance.
That was great.
I think you covered it. He
I think
said.
so.
Yeah,
That
okay.
was great. Yes.
Well, one of the last questions I have is, it sounds like you have a lot of skills and a lot of references to help people get restored in their marriage. Communication, healing from, any form of addiction. What do you feel is your, I don't know how to say this, like, say you have 100 couples that come through your ministry and you're working with, where is your success rate that you feel lies there for people going on and in successful marriages? Or how do you feel, do
Right,
you
yeah.
kind of
How do you
have?
measure success? I
Yeah,
guess, right?
yeah, if you, how do you know? It's
Right.
like, is there any way you,
Gauge success, yeah,
Yeah.
I think, the workbook, the guys go through, it's about 10 months.
okay,
And most guys kind of make a face, they're like, goodness gracious, I'm ready for, a 2-weekend thing and I'm done. And that's not the way this works. This is dealing with deep wounds we have.
Yes.
And you go through the Gospels and there's nothing in there where Jesus healed hearts immediately and there were,
exactly.
you know what I mean? So that's, he can do that with hands, but he's not gonna do that with the heart, it's much more delicate. So any guy that goes through this, through our group and completes it at the end is fantastic, because that's a lot of
Wonderful.
work. Definitely a lot of work, and
Definitely.
there's a lot of homework in there, and that asks very difficult questions, guys like we're, I think, binary, where do you want me to put the picture kind of a thing, or a yes or no answer is all I'm looking for, and these
Right.
ask very tough, deep emotional questions about what's going on inside of you, and it's hard, and most of the guys are, man, I was struggling with this all night, I was thinking about trying to find the right answer. So if guys can go through the entire thing, I think that's fantastic.
It's
And
wonderful.
most guys stay. I have guys that have been there since the beginning. They completed it 10 months, and they, what I'm doing is once I finish it, I might take a week off, maybe, but usually not, and I just start it back up because there's so
Wow.
many guys coming in throughout the year while we're going through this. And I have guys that will stay they've been in there for 3 or 4 years because
Awesome.
they enjoy being in the group, they enjoy doing the work.
And they become
that would be-
mentors, I would assume, to the
Well, that's
ones coming
my
in.
hope. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where I landed. Yeah, I wanted to do this, and in my Tuesday night group, I have about 4 or 5 guys that are constantly asking me questions because they want to start this group in their church once we're done.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
So that's definitely, for me, a sign of success. Yeah.
So it sounds like it's a very successful
Yeah, absolutely.
program that just is
Yeah.
reaching.
Right,
I mean, if you heal this,
right,
God heals it through you.
right,
It heals a marriage,
right,
and that keeps the children
Yes.
and the church together,
right.
because we are the
The
church,
family.
so
Right. Yeah.
that's wonderful.
And then we just, you know, it matches up with any other struggle that somebody else may have had, where now they know how to deal with it, and now they get to help somebody else in their weakness, because this issue will never end. There'll always be this issue
Right,
of guys in church struggling with pornography. So, I mean, there's always gonna be people coming through the door.
yes, yes.
And so, and likewise, there should be guys like me, you know, helping. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? Like
yeah.
it'll just, it
From that
should never end.
success,
Right,
there's more and more mentors and
right,
more to
Yeah.
help, and
yes,
because they completely understand,
right.
and what better, yeah, that's wonderful.
Well, thank you for sharing. We have about 3 minutes left, and boy, that hour went quick,
Yeah.
It
didn't
did
it?
go fast.
I wanted to, I don't know if we have time for closing comments, but I do want to have, after I finish this announcement about our next guest speaker next week, I'm gonna have my husband do a marriage prayer. It's right here on the little wooden piece. We've had this for I think our whole marriage, but it's just a sweet little marriage prayer. And you know, I just wanna say that, you know, when you walk into church on Sundays and everybody's smiling, you know, you just assume everybody's marriage is great, the kids are all toeing the line and stuff. Well, you don't know. You don't know, you know.
Right.
We don't know about everybody's marriage or how it's really happening at home. So I just want to encourage you, it's okay to say, hey, I need some help.
Yep.
And you'd be surprised, if you do that, maybe your friends will do that. They'll go, you know, I do too. So be that encouragement for your friends and your family, and step out in faith, and God will restore, because He promises that He's a God of restoration.
right.
And so it's so important to take that step of faith. Our next guest coming up is my dear friend Jenny Crane, and God brought her into my life in 2012. I was struggling so much with my health. I was really, really struggling, and I was just praying all the time for help. I either wanted God to go, boop, you're healed, which I would have much preferred, or send me help. And He sent me Jenny Crane. And so on next Sunday, we're going to share our health stories, because Sandy's had some things happening too. So we have health stories, and God has brought us to the other side. And we are excited, and Jenny's gonna definitely be very inspirational and give you natural ways of healing. So we want to share that with you, just in case that you need some, you want to go more natural, because I can't really do medications and immunizations and surgeries. I went that route, and it triggered a whole lot of things in my life and brought me down very quickly. So I've had to find natural ways of healing. So that we just want to share with you. And we thank you for joining us today. Thank you
Yes.
so much, Bob and
Yes,
Katie,
thank you.
for your
Thanks for having
insight
us.
and for
Thank you.
sharing
Yeah.
your beautiful ministry.
Yes.
You're welcome.
And we are so happy to have you.
Absolutely.
And thank you for sharing about us. Okay, we're gonna just bow and pray real quick, and then we're going to say goodbye.
Okay. Well, Lord, help us to remember when we first met and the strong love that grew between us. To work that love into practical things so nothing can divide us. We ask for words both kind and loving, and hearts always ready to ask forgiveness, as well as to forgive. Dear Lord, we put our marriage into your hands. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I'm gonna go now.
Okay,
Bye,
I'll
Bill.
catch up with you
Bye,
later.
guys.
It's been great.
Oh, God.
Oh.